Greetings and welcome to Wiretap for this week. It's Brad Einarsen, your host, and I've got with me today Dave Lougheed, the VP of User Experience here at Klick, and Eric Yu, Product Manager for iConnect, our rep iPad app. So guys, this week the story I want to concentrate on is this first word study on the apps that physicians use. A lot of really interesting stats in here that seem to match up with other sources. So I'd sort of like to talk about it in a couple of ways. Sort of the penetration and then how they're using these apps. So in terms of the penetration, it was, what was it? It was 89% of these HCPs have smartphones, 61% are iPhones, and 69% said that they used apps in their professional practice. Eric, what do you think about this penetration in terms of usage?
Well, definitely, I think we're seeing a huge increase as the technology kind of broadens and matures. I think a lot of our HCPs are able to tap into technologies that allow them to reference more information quickly, grab what they're looking for instead of kind of hunting through for publications and other materials. They're able to really pull it up quickly, do quick searches, and really present some interactive content out to the patients.
Yeah, I think we're seeing that doctors are people too, and I think what you're seeing is really an intersection of technology becoming a larger part of their personal lives as well as their professional lives as well. So as doctors get more used to using apps perhaps outside of office hours, they're then using that knowledge to help them find apps that are going to help them in their professional practice as well. So that's what I think is happening.
Mm-hmm. And Dave, as a UX professional, out in the market, you get like a 35% penetration for iOS, right? And Android takes a bunch, and then there's a few smaller players. But here we're seeing 61% in the HCP market. What do you think is going on there?
For iOS, I honestly think there's a bit of a, as Eric mentioned off camera earlier, I think there is a bit of an income bias towards that. iOS devices tend to be more expensive. I think there's also a little bit less of a tolerance for being not a hobbyist, but I think you have to do a little bit more work from a technology perspective to really be able to master an Android device and get it exactly the way you want it, whereas that's not so much the case with an iOS device. I also think that, if we're still talking about iOS from a tablet perspective, there really isn't a great competitor, to my knowledge, to the Apple iPad as of us recording this now. So I think that is another example of that intersection of the doctor's personal life starting to intersect with the professional life, and perhaps more acutely with a tablet.
Well, and that's a good segue. The tablet, they were showing tablet penetration as 70%. 60% have tablet computers, which essentially lines up pretty well with Manhattan Research, which another big survey house. So, Eric, with this influx of tablets, how do you think that's going to change the doctor's practice?
So, well, I think the tablets. So a lot of the media that's coming out today, it's no longer paper-based. So a lot of it is interactive, a lot of it's video. A lot of it is stuff that you can look up and whatnot. So I think right now we're kind of seeing that shift from a paper-based medium to something that, I just need this quick click on something, I want to learn about something. I can access a video directly, or I can access a specific element of a publication without having to search through a lot of paper, without having to archive a lot of stuff, worrying about how frequent it is, how often it's been released, whether it's up to date and whatnot. So I think the electronic medium, which is obviously presented really well on an iPad, really helps us access that information really quickly as it's available, instead of something that's maybe a year or two old now.
Okay. Any final words for our viewers about HCPs and these mobile devices?
I think it's definitely going to get even more. It's going to be getting more traction. I think as the apps get better, as penetration of more HCPs have access to these devices and are using them, and I think as sort of a new generation of healthcare professionals is coming into their own as well, you're going to see an even tighter integration with technology, and the expectation really, I think, will shift from something being paper-based to something electronic. Hopefully it follows suits with health records and lots of other digital innovations that are going to improve healthcare overall.
Okay, that was a bit of a trick because I still have one more question. But the app choices, the other angle on this story was they asked doctors what apps they use, right? Mm-hmm. And there were, the two big ones were practice aids, so that would be things like calculators, stuff like that, yep. At 92%, and 82% had reference apps, things like Hippocrates and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. How do you guys see, how do you guys see those integrating with the doctor's day-to-day work?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's just a matter of convenience, just like what Eric was talking about before. I think it's just a device that they're very familiar with in all aspects of their life, personal and business. And when you're thinking about tasks such as reference, when you think about tasks such as calculators, those are things that computers in general are pretty good at. So as that convenience factor comes to light even more with these devices being smaller, more portable, more part of your everyday life, I think it just makes sense that you're going to see that increase even more.
I also think on the tablet, it's one device. So it's one device that I can carry around, have access to all of that information, rather than searching for specific devices or specific calculators or maybe charts and whatnot to actually look for the information. It's now consolidated. I can do it quickly. I'm not hunting for information. Everything really helps when the fact that it's all within the tablet. So.
And with these, as a sort of a side effect of these questions inside this study, it seemed to me when I read the study that it really was very fragmented. You didn't have, and I guess that's because of the specialties, mm-hmm. right? An oncologist isn't going to worry about a pulmonary,
yep.
right, doctor's apps. But that fragmentation, you've got this interest from the doctors, mm-hmm. and yet you've got a bunch of fragmentation about what they're using. Mm-hmm. That may indicate that there's still opportunity for clients to build apps that will be relevant.
Right, which is huge right now. I think also because since tablets haven't been around for years and years, we're looking at really 2 years in the field right now, fragmentation is kind of a natural aspect of the fact that everything is new. So nothing has been consolidated, so there isn't a clear winner, if you will, to all of this. So there's lots of opportunity for clients to essentially build in tools, build in features, and take advantage of the fact that while the playing field is essentially even, that there's no clear winner right now, there's going to be a lot of different types of apps out there.
Yeah, I don't really look at it as a bad thing. I think it just has to do with your point about specialization, about finding the right tool that makes sense for your specialty. And, lots of room, as Eric said, for improvements and for new players, new ideas. So I think fragmentation is, really a byproduct of competition mm-hmm. and specialized interests, and that's a good thing.
All right. Well, thank you guys. That's it for this week for Wiretap.